To be the moderator for this small talk here. We just try to share a little bit ideas, opinions among the tables here, members on the table. But first of all, I'd like to introduce Erica. She just arrived, a new partners of us to join us this morning for the discussion. So the rest of us, we know Peter and Boris and Natasha, and I'm sure GM Sue. My name's Jimmy. You can call me Jimmy. Easy that way. That everyone knows everyone now. Well, certainly for me as an educator in the hospitality and tourism in Taiwan, I just been learned a lot from this morning's presentation, and from different angle, different country, different point of view. But we share something in common for the idea. That means how to create a brilliant platform to help not just for the chef to make their dream, I like the words, to make their dream come true, right? Just there's an excellent good there. And also help the industry to be very healthily developed and to also benefit all the general public in their life, make healthy life, particularly healthy and I think healthy is important, sustainable is important, keywords. But I just want to raise the first question as from my personal point of view. Culture has plays a very important elements in food industry, in evaluation, even assessments, developments of the food, gourmet food, fine dining, even up to date societies. The behavior for all the customers. So I would say, since, for instance, Boris from Hong Kong, originally from UK, you get a lot of multicultural background by yourself. So when the Best 50 developed for this rating system or this kind of system, how you get involved for all the culture aspect put into these systems. Sam, I ask the good guy, good food guy as well, and because Taiwan obviously also has its own culture as well. But how can we learn from these two prestige magazines? What do you think the culture can play in this kind of assessments or even developments of the food industries in the various countries?
Can I go first? Well, I come from a very multicultural country. One of the initial difficulties, I think, with putting a restaurant guide together is that traditionally we hold in esteem, I think, European food, French food in particular, and it was the same in Australia. Classic cuisine developed from French food. That's the way the culture came to Australia. So, and this has changed over the years as we've had more immigration. And one of the difficulties, I guess, is getting out of the mindset that you can't have restaurants from different cultures. It has to be French or European to be good. So we've had to educate the public, I think, that different ethnic restaurants can be on the same level, because what we're judging is if the restaurant has succeeded in delivering its promises. So if it's not pretending to be a fine dining restaurant, then it can be judged at the same level as a fine dining restaurant, because they're both promising different things, and do they deliver is the question. Do they deliver value for money? Is the food that they're producing what they promise that it's going to be? And of course the element of different cultures that is being absorbed into cuisine in Australia, speaking from experience in Australia, is enriching the dining experience. Australians travel a lot, and when we travel we tend to stay for quite a long time because it's a very long way from Australia to other countries. So we come back and our chefs come back with ideas which are then incorporated into our cuisine, which I think just helps it enrich it and helps the cuisine to grow and develop. So I think it's extremely important. I also like the idea of specialising in cuisines. There was a time in Australia where you would go to a restaurant and all the menus were exactly the same because they had mixed up all the cuisines and they wanted to make sure they had something for everybody. That's changing now as restaurants are starting to specialise. You know, now you will have only French restaurants. It used to be called Modern Australian, and Modern Australian was this conglomeration of all these different cuisines put together. Now we're starting to see people that specialise. So you will go here for Indonesian food, or you'll go to this restaurant for French food, or even further regionalisation. So, you know, Southern Indian or Burmese, or, you know, so I think we're seeing people taking pride in their own culture and realising that they can be as good as the traditional European restaurants. And we're lucky to be diners who are experiencing that.
Thank you. So, you know, as for dining, finding a restaurant good chef, and the ingredient become a very important part as well. So every country is keeping about the green, sustainability, and the local ingredient really plays a very important factors and for the chef to create his artistic work. So when we grading all the restaurants, whether it's the best 50 or what, so how you get involved with the local ingredients role play in your system? Boris, would you share with us?
Well, let me go back to your original question.
Oh, yes, please.
With the World 50 Best, we actually divide the world into 26 regions.
Ah.
So, as I mentioned before, each region we vote, each voters or panelists will vote for 4 local restaurants to the region. So it's pretty well covered in terms of the various countries in the world.
But for instance, Boris, I saw that Hong Kong is very multicolorful. I mean, multicolored.
When you look at it, Hong Kong, all the ingredients are imported.
Yeah.
I think in a way
It's true. It's true.
Because of limited land for local farming, any sort of farming, organic or not, is very limited in terms of supply. I think when you look at the world culinary trend during the past 10, 15 years, especially the Europeans, starting with with Al-Budi, like the molecular or now what they call modernist or progressive cuisine, the Western world has discovered the fifth taste, which is umami. And umami has been in the Asian culture since hundreds of years ago, right? Apart from the Tian Shen Fu La. Umami is basically our shanmei. Okay, so my observation with World 50 Best is because of the recent economy. We're seeing more Asians traveling to America and Europe than Europeans and Americans coming over to Asia.
Vice versa.
Yeah, and invariably, being in Asia, we're being more affluent, or with the emerging middle class, they will go and experience the fine dining according to the various Michelin Guide or 50 Best. In terms of how, my problem, my question, it's always in my mind is how do we attract the rest of the world to come to Asia and go for the find not just fine dining, but to learn more about Asian cuisine. So varied, as well as recognizing some of the top chefs in Asia. Right. When it gets to that point, it's very difficult when you go to a resort in Thailand or Indonesia and all these 5-star resort hotels are serving you box standard international Italian cuisine. I mean, you can go to the most eco-friendly resort in Thailand and they still serve you the pasta, right, international style. I think that's one thing we need to address in Asia in terms of attracting more attention for gourmet. Right. Secondly, having just heard what Sue just mentioned about Taiwan. I mean, Taiwan has a huge potential to develop into a world-class culinary country. However, a lot of the restaurants, I would love to try some of the restaurants you mentioned, but the owner has very good vision, but it's soulless. It has no soul. You need to nurture a new breed of chefs in Taiwan to create that attractiveness. Now, people, you can find out everything about the food and wine and everything on the internet now. With an iPhone, the consumers will just go for these celebrity chefs now. I think that's one thing you have to look into. You have all the software and hardware here. You have some of the best products you can get in Asia. But my opinion is to get some soul into your restaurant.
Well, this is a good question as well, but it's true. This is in our education, not just for school education, but actually for the down to the industry training as well. But how to embolden the vision, I think this is one of the questions for the local chef, has to be cultivated in that way. But you talk about, while I asked Peter, I just learned from you say that the Din Tai Fung, you have the one in Singapore have Din Tai Fung, but of course Taipei has Din Tai Fung as well. But same kind of merchant products, but of course Din Tai Fung in Singapore is a franchise to the local brand there. But seems the management there, the product there is quite slightly different from what we have in Taiwan there. So does anything related with cultures or related to local markets or relate to, what's your observation there?
If I may just humbly offer an opinion. So I'm not part of this panel.
Okay.
I do have a strong opinion about these things, having lived in this part of the world for 35
Yes.
years. Especially in Taiwan and China.
Yes.
Din Tai Fung, local, is of course known. It's like a upmarket mecca for dim sum. And when somebody had that brave idea to franchise it, and that's even been highlighted by a minister in one of the National Day speeches which we just had the past 2 weeks. The highlight was he liked the toothpick very much because of the convenience. He always takes a lot of it. Please allow me to go through this whole thing because there's a very important message. Whether you agree or not is not really the importance. Din Tai Fung is packed. It's like the fast food, upmarket, dim sum, it's busy. I've eaten there 2-3 times and I suggest you come and visit because you may be surprised what is being served. Not the best representation of what Taiwan has to offer. You earlier mentioned cultural. China, Chinese countries, China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and related, obviously have a culture that is steeped in tradition. That's thousands of years, and there has to be a respect. You keep mentioning culture as a very important element. But then if you look globally, whether it's a top 50, it's a good food guide, whether it's Michelin, Gourmet, or it doesn't matter. Why is it always the Western-oriented restaurants stand out? First and foremost, that is where the tradition of food reviews came from. Even so, there's the first Chinese cookery book, the Shuyan, if I remember correctly. It had never to do so much with the culture. It has more to do with the export of that culture. When Chinese culture was exported, and I talk specifically about Chinese culture, you exported it and adapted to a location. When I went to a Chinese restaurant in Germany, they served Germanized Chinese food to suit the Germans. Smart business sense. Very poor and proper from the cultural perspective. When I went in there and I realized they were Shanghainese and spoke to them in their language, I had food that my German counterpart who had this brilliant idea to bring me to a Chinese restaurant, never experienced. It was pathetic. So from the Asian perspective, they export, but they localize it. Then look at the French and everyone else. When they export, vive la France. I'm French, I gotta use it the French style. They never gave an inch. It is only lately that it has adapted. Now, if you look at the European, when I say European, that goes into the US and the Australian markets, they're very similar dining styles. You have your fork, you have your knife, you have your several courses. And it doesn't matter whether it's upmarket, whether it's casual, what have you. They're similar, they're more comparable. Later you see in the presentation, I suffer from these so-called localized and regionalized and cultural aspects quite a bit. You must have an international standard. And like it or not, whether it's Taiwan or China, you can have your own Chinese guide, which by the purists and the historians I think is important, and Fuzhous that want to be exposed to this will continue to herald traditions which are very important and which have to be kept alive. However, if you want to play on the international scene, you have to internationalize. That's been some of the work that I had to do 15, 20, 25 years back. So that you go into a level playing field. Michelin burned itself a little bit when it went to Japan, even in Hong Kong. Because they use Western reviewers on Asian restaurants and vice versa. So, but they're slowly progressing. The top 50 is controversial in its own right. Because how do you compare? That's always the point. A Japanese sushi restaurant for 10 to 12 seats with a restaurant that has 3, 4, 5 tables or more. And you do not find Chinese restaurants, except very, very few, that cater for anything less 60, 80, or 100, because it doesn't make business sense. So how do you compare one with the other? It's very impossible. Now, let's say you go within China. Chinese is a very simple word for a huge country. Shanghainese, Pekingese, Beijing, Guangzhou. It's a constant argument. Who is a better businessman? Who is a better tailor? Who has a better food? Permanently argue. But they're all different. North to the south, 2 completely different cuisines. Try to go into India, there's 5 different cuisines. North, south, east, west, center. And they're distinctively different. We seem to sometimes forget from the Western world that these countries are so huge. That size of a country is the same as the size of Europe. And yet there's differentiation. So how important the cultural aspect is. The French are trying to find their culture back now. There's a big movement in France to actually bring back the Frenchness. And the cuisine de terroir, or the regional cuisine, is being promoted. The Spaniards, after Ferran and the San Sebastian clique and everything, are losing out to the Scandinavians in some ways, because that's where the trends are moving. We need to understand history, how food has moved forward from the Middle East to the Greeks, to the Italians, who married the French. Don't even talk about the Germans, we don't have any history. And then, of course, don't talk about the New World. Taiwan, very Chinese, even more traditional than China in many aspects.
In a way.
But the big problem is not the culture and the tradition. It really lies into communication. Every country today, every government institution is preaching buy local. There's no place, we call it sustainability, we call it whatever, you want to go local. And that's the way to go. Local produce where I can, except Hong Kong and Singapore. We pride ourselves, we get everything in the world because we don't have anything. We have to import everything.
And Dubai and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, but you know, you'd be surprised. I've traveled the Middle East and they are building farms you will not believe it in the mountains.
This will be Peter.
So it comes down, just let me finish.
Yes.
The essence of it is, when I had the meal yesterday, and to me that is a problem. And even talking about restaurant reviews and food reviews. Because food is an emotion. A government cannot drive a food review. A government can drive a policy, can implement support, and all these things. Yesterday we had to ask for an English translation on a very traditional menu. This is one of the problems that we are facing, not only here, also across the sea. If you want to have international recognition, and it's not done through roadshows alone, it is done through bringing people in and exporting it and communicating in a language that's understood. Of course, we in Taiwan, we should be speaking Chinese now. I know a few fragments, but not enough to have a good communication. But I find it fascinating and interesting what you present, yet I can't really comprehend all of it. Boris has a lot more to offer there, and I think from Natasha more, a little bit in my book, we are kind of, okay, we get the essence, but we're really not that deep. You will not be international until you act and promote international. That's very clear. Taiwan has a strong affinity to the US. You're looking too much to the US. Look to the rest of the world. Taiwan has so much to offer. It has a national dish which I think internationally is not known enough. And it's not so much to let chefs work with the local products or local environment, it's to internationalize it. And the best country I can think of in Asia that has done a hell of a job, and maybe too much so, is Taiwan. Because it became a national obsession. I think overdone. But if you want to open a Thai restaurant today, the government gives you the decoration, they give you the chefs, they give you the recipes, and so it's a kickstart. Whether we agree on styles, how deep the history and culture should go, I guess it's a philosophical thing. At the end of the day, you want to be in the top, you have to act like being part of the top. With soul, with passion, with the right cooking styles. You got to bring the international reviewers in, expose them, make them your ambassadors going overseas. Send your chefs away. Let them work with a Michelin restaurant, no matter which country it is. Send them all over the world. Get exposed, bring them back. And the owners as well. You have so much here. But it's closing off, it's a little bit like, you know, the boy and the girl in a tunnel, it's dark. He's winking at her, but she can't see him because it is dark. You know, you've got offer so much, but it's not coming through. And I think that is one of the issues.
May I add something to
Yes,
that as well?
please.
I agree with what you're saying. I think also, though, you need to inspire your own chefs here with pride in their own local cuisine. I interviewed Rene Redzepi once, and he said to me, you know, he has the, I think he's number 2 or 3 in the world now. Noma, what is it now?
Number 2.
Number 2. When I interviewed him, he was at number 1, and he said to me, I could not do Noma in any other country. I cannot replicate this restaurant in another country because it is totally unique to that country and that cuisine and that culture. And I think the way that we need to move forward with restaurants is make them so that they are so unique to those countries that people want to come there and have that, rather than trying to export our culture, our food culture, to other countries and ending up with this very mixed up, watered down version of the original, is to start a program where you inspire chefs with what they have around them. You know, you take them on tours of their own country, show them the beautiful produce, inspire them and make them proud of what they have so that they take that message with them, and create a cuisine that is uniquely Taiwanese, that people want to come to try Taiwanese food.
Can I add something to this? Because, well, I agree partially with it. Restaurant Andre, which is in the top 50, what number is he?
I think it's Asia, I can't remember.
He's fairly out there, right?
He's Taiwanese.
He's Taiwanese.
Yes.
He's born here. Educated, culinary, Japan, France. Came to Singapore, made his fortune. Because in Singapore he found a market which understood what he was trying to do. He's probably your best overseas ambassador you have at the moment. But there's only one Andre. Why are there not more? And I think before we even do this local inspiration, you got to send them out and learn from the top 50. Each one of the chef has to understand what makes a top 50 a top 50 or a three-hatter. When they understand what that takes, bring them back and then get them locally involved.
The point is not to copy the cuisine of the
No,
place
you
that they
don't.
go to, but
It's
just
essence.
The best example of this is actually Japan,
Yeah.
where there's a lot of young Japanese chefs doing their own version of the interpretation of French or Italian cuisine. They're using all 100% local ingredients, right?
And how
Now
did they get there?
now they, because they actually went to intern in Europe with all the Michelin star chefs. And now there's such a shortage of chefs in France. The Japanese are actually taking over restaurants in Paris. You see, it's going back the other way around.
In
And
the
then-
70s, we used to laugh.
Yeah.
And I have to add this because that relates to it. Oh, we had all the Japanese young chefs coming in, and they worked for free. They worked free. 3 months, 6 months, very quiet. They just, and we laughed at them. Said, look at these guys. Today, who's laughing? They learned the craft in the countries. They chose the restaurants where they wanted to work for. And
Now
then
there
they
are at
brought
least
it
5 Michelin star restaurants in Paris are run by Japanese chefs, or
Well-
owned by Japanese chefs.
Very good. I'm very happy to bring up one word's culture, bring up such a good, feedback and
That's what I
from
said,
this
it
point
means
of
so.
view. Yeah, and same as in the education system here from our school here, we promote very important things. That means all our students, they have to make their trip to for study tour to Europe for 2 weeks, but for 1 year for internship. To Singapore, keep on sending for years, 43 students every year, keep on to learn. We bring in the Laguna Blue to joint venture with them. But Laguna Blue, you're right, most of the chefs now from Japan, rather from Paris at the moment. But nevertheless, I think this could be a trend, because to bring the salt back to the majority of the chef industry here, of course, it is right thing to do, but obviously we don't work strong enough. But it takes a little bit time here.
I think that's when the cultural thing starts.
Yes.
Because generally in Asia, especially in Chinese culture, being a chef is not very highly regarded.
Exactly.
It's basically, if you can't get into university, you become a chef. Right. You have to change the mindset.
No.
You need a celebrity chef in Taiwan to show off that you can make a successful career to be a chef.
And that's not just in Taiwan, it's just in Asia.
Yeah, in Asia in
general,
general. But slowly, I mean, like Thailand, Singapore,
changing.
Hong Kong is changing, right? Even in China or Shanghai, it's slowly changing. You can see chefs getting younger and younger. Look at Noma. The whole team is like in their 30s.
Yeah. Boris, it's just right here. Perfect. I have some couple of words here. That means make a good mark here for the chef industry here to be the chef. Also, the social impacts is very important.
Yeah.
The social impact, including the belief, the value system.
Yes.
The life pattern. Life pattern is not that important. I think the value system is very important. Most of the I'll say most of the Chinese people, they trust that, they believe that the value is being a chef, not the traditionally recognized social status. But we have keep on changing now in Taiwan, because life pattern in Taiwan has been changed greatly.
Right.
This is why I offer a very great opportunity for the youngsters here. Get opportunity to learn and can be quickly recognized to find the future. Maybe not as just Andrew in Singapore, but sooner or later I'm sure there'll be more have the opportunity, because changing the life pattern, the belief has been created a better opportunity here for the youngsters. I'm sure you will. It takes a little bit, but I really say there's a very good opportunity. You bring up this question. I'll let General Su to put it down, because this gentleman is very close to government. He knows all the policy there. So GM Su mentioned one of the grading system which is being done, but behind the scene is the government try to promote, to help to do the grading system job here. but different market. One is the free market down in the Western world. The market says, all right, market dominates what's going to do. But Taiwan forced a little bit to different way to the accomplishment for the grading system. Here the question is, best 50, good guys, good food guys. When you do all the grading or magazine, whatever you try to promote the food market here, what are the difficult things that you have been faced that hopefully we may learn to know from here? Because different, as I said, different society, different culture, different way, different do it, government, free market. But when you do your such an outstanding work, best 50, just only 11 years, because such a brilliant, effort, performance there. Good guy, good food guy as well. But two things, what are the difficult things you have been challenged in the past? What do you think the right way to do for the future? Just personal opinions.
For us in Australia, one of the biggest difficulties is service. So while chefs, the esteem of chefs has risen, working in a restaurant generally, wait staff hasn't. So it's still considered a job if you work in a restaurant, something you do while you're going to university or a part-time job. When I first started eating out, my brother is a chef, and I've always been very closely connected with food and eaten out a lot. During the late 80s, when I first started eating out, being a waiter in a restaurant or being a restaurant manager was considered a quite serious job. They took it seriously, and service was really good. And we've seen a deterioration of service in Australia in the decades since. What we struggle with the most, and restaurants will always say in Australia, is finding staff, keeping staff. We have our staff are also relatively well paid compared to some countries. We have penalty rates. This has been a very bad thing for the restaurant industry now that they have to actually pay penalty rates for weekends or working after 10 p.m, etc. It's been quite disastrous for them. So yes, service is a very big problem, and keeping staff. It impacts on what we do as well, trying to write a guide. We had the first guide, I had given an award to a Chef of the Year award, and we'd started, he didn't know he was getting the award, but I was going to give him this award. We'd started printing the guide, and he phoned to tell me that he'd just left that restaurant. Not only had we given it to him and it had written in the guide from this restaurant, but we had a photograph of him wearing his chef's whites with the restaurant that he'd just left embroidered on it. So we literally had to stop printing the book and change this information, take a new photo of him and change the book. So the staff, I think.
So the lead time, you just mentioned about the lead time right there.
Yeah, it changes, the hospitality industry changes so quickly that you have to be open. I'm still writing, I'm still changing things up to the very last possible minute that I can.
Yeah, just curious. The changing staff becomes so frequently, obviously to me seems like very normal now, kind of normal in Australia. May I just know what are the reasons behind, and for instance, working hour too long, I don't know, salaries, or just for one reason?
I would say the lower unemployment rates we have in Australia. People don't need to do hospitality jobs with hours, longer hours, and because they can pick and choose.
Because the salary for the hospitality people, waiters in Taiwan, obviously is low. Just why I ask. It doesn't mean anything. Just because it happens in our society.
Yeah. Look, they don't get a high pay. It's not the best paid job, but it's certainly not the worst, but people just don't need to. We have a big gap in the Australian economy with lower paid jobs that nobody wants to take and don't need to take them because we have enough jobs.
That's a global issue.
Yeah.
The more society advances, the more it struggles. Even so, chef's profession or service professionals in some areas get recognized. If you want to do it well, the hours that are associated with it, you basically give up a lot of your life. Any of the top people will attest to that. But it consumes you, really. And no Farah, and no Thomas Keller, and no Heston got where they are today by doing an 8-hour, 9-hour job. And how many can get to the top? Like the Oscars. And one Best Actor of the Year. Many aspirations to get there. Only there's maybe a bit more likelihood.
We also have very big problems with rent in Australia. So rent is very expensive for restaurateurs, all in the whole of Australia. So this is, they pay a good percentage of their profits towards rent. So that can be hard. They either choose to be out of the city a little bit more, somewhere less accessible, and take the risk that people will come to them, or they just realise they have to pay that kind of money for rent.
Thank you. Boris?
Well, 50 best is slightly different from a good food guide. We didn't get that close to the industry. Basically, it's each voters doing online voting based on the best dining experience or most memorable dining experience. Forget to think about just Asia 50 best. I think one of our main problems is we try to cover all the countries within the Asian region. What a lot of panelists, and including some of the other academy chairs, come up with is the problem is where countries or regions where they're very famous for their street food rather than their
night markets. Yeah.
dining. I mean, Taiwan is awfully small.
Yes.
Malaysia, Korea. I mean, I was trying so hard to find a restaurant in Korea, but they're just not up to. You all have the same similar. It's not a problem, but similar style. Love to see more, more young emerging chefs from these markets. Also, part of our voting, we have to vote for the best female chef in Asia, which is far in the field. Last year was Bolan from Bangkok, but you do have a female chef in Taiwan. She owns a restaurant called Le Moot in Taichung, and I think she just opened a branch in Taipei. Right. So maybe she work with her. When she goes to China, she has celebrity status.
Oh, really?
Right. When I mentioned her here to some of your colleagues, nobody even heard about her. Right. Because her restaurant, the Mood, is in the relation to guide, and somehow now the Chinese are reading the relation to guide. And after Taipei, I'm going over to Taichung to try out. So. I'll let you know where
I live in Taichung, but never heard of it. I'm sorry, but I don't go back to Taichung very often. Once a week only. But it's still.
So then I have a question to you. If you're already facing the problem and you have slightly different problems, do then the rules really apply across?
No, because basically you can vote for any restaurant. There's no printed down list.
You only vote for the good restaurant.
I know the system.
It's a little bit different.
I know the system.
So, but the thing is, when it comes to certain countries or regions, for example, Singapore, there's rather limited in choice in the number of restaurants you can vote. It's always that same group of restaurants, isn't it?
So the point really is, when you have the panelists,
I think all of
where they
you.
travel to.
I'm sorry.
Just want to finish this one.
Yes.
Because this is highly argumentative, and I have this before.
Yeah, please.
You're more likely to travel, for example, between Singapore and Hong Kong, for various reasons, Shanghai, Bangkok. So your exposure to those restaurants is a lot higher, right? Then, for example, less people possibly travel to Taiwan for food, or to Indonesia, or to Malaysia. So it's quite tough. Yes, you can say you have X number of voters, and I know the process.
If you were a Singaporean panelist, right, you have 7 votes, right? 4 of them must be in Singapore, and 3 outside Singapore. So, but each region will have 36 voters. So it's up. Invariably, they all travel very differently.
Well, I just
love to have that discussion separately. Yes, I am.
I just learned from Boris. It was really amazed me for you. You have a lot of the media value there. You know, a lot of people turn on to see through the website and to learn a lot of information. I guess a lot of the publicities and good for the industry. Whatever. There's a lot of effectiveness there. And in Taiwan, I'm sure Eric, she operates a very huge so-called IP network, particularly for gourmet lovers. So they offer a lot of the informations and so forth there. Would you explain a little bit? For me, it is quite new. How do you do your business? Number one. Secondly, how do you be neutral? I mean, you just offer the information, but you don't. It's kind of I don't know, neutral. Stay neutral there. I don't know whether I use the right words, but it's just how you manage it, how you do it, or would you to share with us a little bit? You're the leading one, right, in the market now. Please.
首先我
中文没关系，中文是 OK， 对 ，translate。
首先我非常的刚刚听到非常多，对我来讲是一个蛮多不同面向、不同冲击的谈论。那这对我来讲，其实身为一个我单纯的 Internet 平台的经营者来讲，它其实是对我来对于台湾饮食文化，我也希望能够尽更多的力气。那在爱评网经营台湾的饮食这件事情来讲，我们认为其实所有美食都是主观的，在主观的情况底下，能够累积到一定数量的程度底下，它就可以产生一定客观的参考价值。那也许在大家可能谈论的文化，或是在谈论的更深一层的如何将台湾推展国际这件事情，也许现在爱评网还做得不够多、不够好。但对我来讲，其实这是我们本来就是要积极努力想要达到的目标。我认为台湾的餐饮文化不是只有鼎泰丰是美食，是maybe 在罗斯福上面就有一家更厉害的说行小笼包，更适合大家，更值得大家去。
说行小馆。
对，说行小馆。那甚至像是其实像在爱评网里面，我们甚至也让更多台湾的消费者，更多台湾单纯只是爱吃美食的这些所谓的不是美食的专家，而是这群消费者，能够更进一步的跟所谓的餐厅的主厨能够有一些互动，我们称为爱评饭团的活动。我们希望能够这样的舞台，能够让台湾的这些主厨们有机会透过不同的舞台去表现自己的对于厨艺上的坚持跟厨艺上的努力。那包含像是我们有到台中一个很著名的餐厅叫映月，或者是像映月有映月特色。Yeah,
over the 七北镇一路168号。Yeah, I was there last week.
这是一个很棒的一个，就是有算是比较是特色的台湾餐厅，或者是像高雄的水盐蒸，它也是一个非常棒的餐厅。
你要去这个菜包里啊，有没有听过？
所以其实我认为台湾的美食这件事，我如何去经营这个 business， 当然毕竟网络的平台不是慈善事业，我们必须得要有营收，我们才有办法支撑这个平台的营运下去。所以在商业性的上面，我们绝对不会去影响公正性的评论，这是第一件事情。第二件事情是我们是集结全台湾的所谓的素人平民的文化，去彰显台湾的美食。也许它的被评鉴的那个 level 不会到非常的精准，无法去评鉴。因为消费者不会去跟主厨对谈到，但他只可以透过他眼前所见到的美味服务环境去做任何的rating 这样子。对，所以其实我认为，也许我们现在努力的还不够，但是我们会继续加油。
而且瑞很客气，其实你做了很多很棒啊，因为这为台湾这基本的生根打底嘛，这个有了，这个是国际化才可及了哈。当然他们非常先进，也很好。他们觉得 ，well, they offer real good opinions, so we should try to think about it, rethink about it, how to make it internationalized or globalized, this kind of stuff is important. But on your point of view, you also create a very good platform for the local food market, entertaining the general public over in Taiwan here. I think this is also very important because you're building up the base for getting more and more people, to get to know the business. This is your great effort. You should be very proud of yourself as well. Yeah.
Well, I think Erica is a good position
Yes.
to actually offer a good sort of like dining guide for Taiwan, because I had difficulty trying to find any reference, right? The guides I can buy in Hong Kong are mostly telling us to go to all the street food places, right? Maybe there's only one or two guides written by some Hong Kong foodie selected. You're in the best position to do a full Taiwan, I don't care, fine dining guide or gourmet guide. I only found out about, for example, Yingjue last night from Peter Shi, right? And I'm meeting him for dinner there. But I would like to know more before I arrive. Yeah, as a reference.
Tonight will be the typhoon hitting all over the island, and make sure you get a scheduled train for the bullet train down there around right time.
I'm not going there until the 23rd. So.
Oh, okay, that'll be fine.
Yeah.
That'll be fine. Well, also in Taiwan, I think Erin just mentioned one point. Also, like to elaborate a little bit. She's saying that over their IPing network, none of any his subscriber or his fans can post on any articles or writings that is with any bias, right? This is also union system. We're the same as the good food guy there as well. I just learned from the critics and ethics. This is also good words. I love that. This is important. Yeah. Well, I think the GM Sue and he make a excellent, very comprehensive presentation for this morning, but even not in English, but I'm sure afterwards you can get a copy of his presentation there. It should be very helpful. But still, I'd like to ask him to give us the idea. Since he's been working in this field for long, I've known him for years. When the first time I saw him, the hair doesn't look that gray at all. But, now getting wider and wider, but a lot of wisdom involved there. But obviously, he's the one that worked very close to our government. Peter and I and all can suggest that government is good, but they look at the policy there, but also how to work with the free market, how to bring in some of the new ideas and to co-work together to make more flexible and more progressive ideas to let the market have free hands to become stronger and better. Or we can hopefully to have our own rating or grading, whatsoever we want to build it up. Would you say a few words, please?
Again, Mandarin, if you don't mind. I'd like to raise two main points. 第一个哈，就带上有两个意见看法。第一个，其实过去我们在台湾哈，就是说对于餐饮这个行业其实我们是有很大的考虑的，就是这个产业是不是真正能够代表台湾的发展？但是最近这几年哈，其实我们都觉得，这样很深入的进去之后，才发现这个产业真正能够代表台湾未来产业的发展，它是很重要的明星产业。那这也为什么，就是说我们最近也发现，比像荣校长他们这个领域里面，学校餐饮相关学校的是越来越多，科系的人越来越多，加入人是越来越多，是越来越多。那就是说很显然的，过去这个 chef 或者我们讲的餐饮服务人员的社会地位。过去代上也不被认定，我们讲的好人不当兵啊，这个好汉不打丁啊，那个打丁意思代上也做这种工作，但事实上现在在社会地位上面其实是很大的调整跟改变。给各位举几个例子就可以了解这些事情。比如说王品，其实他是台大毕业的，进到这个领域来。那比如讲鼎泰丰我们很佩服的地方是怎么样？就是说他把简单的事情做到极致就变成不简单了，就是一个红包，对吧？全世界各地都要来，对不对？要来请他去跟他做联盟合作联盟，把简单事情做到不简单，做到极致，那真的是不简单的事情。因此我们讲的说那个达人的地位也被认定了。另外像 最近讲的那个吴宝春，吴宝春在他申请学校，这个按照规矩他是被拒绝的，但是媒体就为他发声，所以其实我都觉得，当这个领域里面从业人员的社会地位提高了之后，带上这个领域就有希望。这第一个看法哈。那第二个看法就是大家刚才讲的国际化，其实我都觉得在我个人的观点里面，就是 international guide， 就是说既应该有的机制，应该有的这些基本的这些态度价值，我都觉得那个很重要的。但除了 international guide 之外，其实我们还要强调一件叫 local content， 真的要有在地的文化、在地特色、在地的这一些内容被融入进去，那这样子才能有办法做到所谓的 from spec to style， 就是说是规格的东西，但是其实你要风格的东西，那这样的话可能才有办法彰显你的独特的地位。不过谢谢今天罗校长主持底下大家提供很宝贵的意见，对我们来讲都是一个很好的学习。那刚刚大家所提供的宝贵意见，包括Trisha给我意见说，还有提到过的，就是我们的那个 information 这件事情是不是不够 open 啊，不够
这我
对
就从事教育来看了，要有负担责任。他刚讲到 manual 的很 proper 好的英文翻译成中文的菜色，能够讲得很沟通。我想这个在从教育角度也是可以来琢磨很多。我想我们也在做不够。不过有一点哈 ，there is one thing I will just echo General GM Su 哈。Actually, the chef, the social status has been increased in Taiwan dramatically lately in these 10 years. And for instance, my school is hospitality. We have a culinary art college there. Mm-hmm. When we, for the intake students every year, only 4% can be accepted into the university because this is the have to go through all the examination, get into university. Only 4%. So it's very hard to get in. In other words, all the youngsters have a great interest to get into the professional school, to learn, and then hopefully to be a successful chef or even work in a chef or even a culinary art industry. This is a good thing. Second, lately there's a magazine called the Sangye Zoukan Business Weekly, which is one of the leading magazines in Taiwan. The cover story says that who beats the National Taiwan University? National Taiwan University is the leading university, just like a Peking University in China, or like Hong Kong University in Hong Kong. It is the leading one. They said, what are the university, in other words, beats the traditional leading university like National Taiwan University? Because University of Taiwan, their employment rate ranking is number 20. For instance, I hate to say, but my school, my university, is ranked number 5. Why? Because we cultivate, nourish the leading chef in Taiwan. All the Western culinary art, all the chefs or junior chef, all graduate from our Western culinary art department. His good friend Eddie right there is his junior. He's Peter's junior. For instance, this is the changing. What I'm about to talk about is changing, right? The value is changing, the lifestyle is changing, and the belief is changing. I think this is a good point. And this echo GM Su's whether he just doubted whether the culinary art, the hospitality, tourism could be the fundamental or can be called as named as industry or not. But obviously, it is great industry, particularly in Taiwan. This is under government's policy. It is one of the 6 leading, service industry. Yeah, service industry in Taiwan is very important. So I'm very glad to have all you experts join this round table. You can offer great ideas, and even the time is so short, we should share it a little bit. But so happy to have you all. I'm sure your suggestions or discussions should be a great help for this industry in Taiwan. Hopefully we'll see you and have you to come back to Taiwan more often. Get it together.
Next time I'll check your website.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
谢谢。
English version. One start.
哦，谢谢。
果然块头这么大。
没有。
哎，你好。
哦，我们师长，我们先出来一下。怎么样？有跟我实际的。
就是这样。Yeah, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Thank you in Chinese.
Much appreciated.
市长送嘛，对不对？
对。
市长今天要送。
校长，
好，我感受。
高铁2点就开了，要。